Welcome. I am Udaya, the Senior Executive Producer for Simply Raw News Podcast, and this is my unapologetic discussion concerning 4 commonly ignored or overlooked attributes possessed by a man or woman. I'm going to attempt to answer 2 questions. Number 1, when dating, how does one measure the attributes of a man or woman other than what they initially see, such as their physical appearance, their finances, their romantic skills, or their assets? And the second question, how often does one enter into a relationship for the wrong reasons? Then they start to whine and cry and complain, and then they seek advice when it starts to crash and burn. I hesitate to usually give relationship advice to individuals in general because it seems that trial and error or their own experience is going to be their best teacher. That is, if they ignore advice, of course. Not all advice is good advice either. It's best to measure what advice you hear. Try to listen with your logical mind and not your emotional heart. As an alternative, one can solicit advice from an elder or their clergy. Actually, though, seeking advice from mature, trusted, and experienced close family members could be a better option, and that type of advice is well received. Now, before one goes head over heels and ends up in a situation taking a downward spin to hell, it might be a good idea to review some other attributes a man or woman has. I identify 4 of those, and they are their standards, their values, their emotional stability, and their tradition. Let's talk about their standards first. Some will try to convince you that they are different from any other previous relationship that he or she had in the past. Now think about this. That's an interesting proclamation when they never ever met your other relationship. So if you hear them say this, it's a good idea to disregard it, just discount it. You should assess their standards. Are their standards above grade or below grade? What is their position relative right to right versus wrong? Lifestyles that were considered unacceptable back in the past days are now acceptable and common practice. Now, is this okay with you? Think about it. Is he or she a talker, bragger, talker, and you can't even squeeze a word in between? Then just be still, be quiet, listen, and watch that superhero cape come off. You will learn most of what you need to know. Listen for contradictions. Are they being consistent or contradicting themselves or just rambling on with no course or direction? How do they measure their own quality of life in comparison to your quality of life? Are they boastful? Do they brag a lot? Do they have structure and rules about their diet, their clothing, their tidiness, etc.? Above all things, get your own house in immaculate order. Those personal rooms, especially the bathroom, the bedrooms, the closets. There should be no makeup, perfume bottles, hair weave tossed on sinks, floors, and dressers. Trash or dirty clothes laying around is just not acceptable. Not only does one read you, but they read your environment as well. Another attribute we should consider is their values. Do they have obligations and are they met? Do they talk about what they plan to do rather than those things they already did or have accomplished? Are they overly judgmental, or are they capable of making appropriate adjustments to their ideas and goals when it's necessary? We need forward-thinking people around us and not one that constantly lives in the past. There are instances where they will not openly speak their own truths concerning their own values because they fear of being labeled like feminist or homophobic or sexist. The other attribute I want to discuss is their emotional stability. Most in general, as a rule, it is one's nature to not initially show their emotions openly. Society expects men to have brute strength physically and mentally. But if he openly displays sadness or sorrow, it is sometimes considered to be effeminate, or also known as bitch behavior. Women that initially show their emotions can be seen as needy, easy, motherly, weak, too sensitive, or vulnerable. Now, consider this very last attribute, their tradition. These are people that prefer to marry or date within their own religion or ethnicity. They are not inclined to venture or mix their seed into any of the other 18 nations on this planet. Why? Because their mate needs to be like-minded, less complicated, seem accessible. It prolongs and establishes their lineage. They can continue their cultural tradition, their attire, their diet, their beliefs, and other factors. This is not unusual, and you see this occurring in every nation all over the planet. Yeah, people do cross over, and there are exceptions. Traditional folk may hesitate if they get pressed to steer too far to the left or too far to the right. Traditional men or women will mimic long-established behaviors that they learned from their parents, grandparents, or other mentors. Now, in contrast, women may desire traditional men even if she is not a traditional woman. Men may desire a traditional woman even if he is not a traditional man. You heard the term opposites attract. You do the math. So, remember to examine these 4 attributes. VETS, vets. Use due diligence to examine their values, emotions, traditions, and standards. Check their vets. Okay, there you have it. Take it or leave it.
Get ready for an adventure. Let's do this. Unlike anything you've seen before.
They are so dead for that.
All we need to do is slice and dice our way through.
I've already seen the failure of that outcome.
7.3 factor of equivalency for the quantum key equation to be resolved.
Step into the world of Resilience Red X.